Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Rune. So I thought today we'll go over Magic the Gathering top 10 hard cards in all the Magic world. Now, at number 10, which we will begin with Golems Heart from various sets. It's an uncommon or rare depending on the set with an average price of 32 cents, even it being rare. Basically it says whenever a player casts an artifact spell, you may gain 1 life. Reason why it's here, well, it says any player, not just you or the enemy or anyone. So this card can be really helpful in multiplayer choose, but it can be 100% useless if no one is playing artifacts. So quite simply, that's why it's at number 10. So let's move on to number 9, which is Colonies Heart Expedition from various sets. It's a common going for 19 cents on the market. And yes, it's an enchantment with a heart. I figured, well, look at this picture. It has heart in it. It's kind of cool. It says whenever a land enters the battlefield under control, you may put a quest counter on the heart. Remove 3 quest counters. And, well, sacrifice it. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. So this can really help if you're basically having any kind of creatures that cost a lot of mana, which makes sense for green. So if you want that 8/8 trample with haste coming out, this is the kind of card that you want to have in your deck. Other than, like most cards, it has a certain ability. I would not play this card even in the real Magic world. But being on this list, this is why it's at number 9. So let's move on to number 8, which is a Serene Heart, and it's, well, not a very important card either. This is from Mirage. It's common going for 20 cents on the market. It says destroy all local enchantments. That's right, back in the day we used that word local. And it says its magic is your crutch. Cast it aside and learn to walk without it. To Fury. So I think out of everything, the saying is more important than the actual card itself. But it does cost 2 mana, which is reason why it's at, well, number 8 and not number 10. So let's just move on to number 7, which is Dark Heart of the Wood. This card I actually used in the dark when, well, that's what we used the decks back in the day. Or from Ravnica, City of Guilds. It's common from the dark or uncommon from the Ravnica, with an average price of 24 cents on the market at the time of this video. And I'm surprised this card is actually not as powerful as it should be in most old school decks, because if you want to build some kind of land destruction deck, let's sacrifice a force and gain 3 life. You just have that with, like, you can play land cards from your graveyard. You play them, sack them, you gain, like, basically infinite life. Back in the day, the dark, this card was helpful just to get that extra life, especially with the whole not white colors. Other than that, this is the reason why it's at number 7, is because of that ability and what you can even do with. This card was actually, I'm going to say it again, really good to be used in decks if you want to do some kind of land deck. So let's move on to number 6, which is Heart of Woodgarden from Weatherlight. It's a rare for going for $1.73, so that's the most expensive card at the time of this video and right now. Costs 4 mana for this enchantment with a cumulative upkeep of 2, which basically doesn't exist in Magic anymore. If Heart of Woodgarden cumulative upkeep is not paid, Heart of Woodgarden deals damage equal to that last played cumulative upkeep to target player and each creature he or she controls. So basically it's kind of like a Red Wrath. It's a really cool card. This is why it's number 6. Is just that basically if you want to have this card, you better be sure to have that cumulative upkeep for yourself so that the opponent can lose that much life, as well as those creatures. So this can backfire quite well, because if you don't draw that land, this card is useless. So let's move on halfway down our list to number 5. And halfway down our list is Gonti's Aether Heart from Aether Revolt, and it's a mythic going for $1.04 at the market. This one costs 6 mana to bring out this legendary artifact, but guess what? It says whenever the Aether Heart or another artifact enters the battlefield under control, you get 2 energy counters. So basically you pay those energy counters, exile Gothi Aether Heart, take an extra turn after this one. This is why it's halfway down the list, because, well, you can easily pump out artifacts. Even when it costs 6 mana, you can still do that after basically next turn, if it's not destroyed by your opponent or opponents. Basically, you can keep taking turns, keep paying that mana, and basically do, like, Mem Knight or something. Cost 0, bring it in, just keep pumping, get those extra turns, and you can keep taking those extra turns. And most of all, it's not blue. This is an artifact. That's really cool. This is why it's halfway down the list, is because you can take an extra turn without having any blue in your deck. Now let's move on to number 4. And at number 4, we got Heart of Ramos. If you remember this Mercadian Mask or World Deck 2000 card, it's a rare going for $2.84 from the Mercadian and 91 cents, believe it or not, from the World Deck. This card was very popular in Mercadian, same with all the other artifacts that were similar to the blue-white and had their own versions. This one is red, and the saying goes, Ramos bled, and there was fire. So for 3 mana, you get an extra red mana. I think that's actually pretty good, and it is playable in decks, especially back in the day. That's what everyone played because, not everyone can play a Black Lotus, so this is the best alternative. So let's move on to number 3. At number 3, we got Heart of Yavimaya. It's from Alliance's Overworld Champ deck, 97. It's a rare going for $4.60 for the Alliance one, or $1.02 for the Champ deck. So surprisingly in this video, there's a lot of Heart cards in World Champ decks. I guess that's just a coincidence, but that's really cool as well. So with this card, I actually like the picture. It's really cool. It's a land, has a nice purple border, which you don't see very common in the Magic world. And when it comes into play, sacrifice a forest or berry. So you only get 1 forest, but it says target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So that's where you debate if this card is good or not. This is why it's at number 3, because even though you're bearing a forest, you can have a creature +1/+1 until end of turn, which can be really annoying for an opponent if they're trying to block. So let's move on to number 2. At number 2, we got Cold Steel Heart from various sets, and even at various sets with this uncommon, it's still going at $3.78 on the market. It's so powerful for an uncommon. And it only has 2 colors. Basically, when it comes into play tap, you choose a color, and you then, for all eternity, you can add 1 mana of the chosen color to your mana pool. Has a cool saying, the Phyrexian Death Machine awoke, its coldest heart imbuing its sinister to new power. So not only is this card at number 2, it's a Heart card, it is actually playable in the Magic world. I would recommend this card in basically a lot of Magic decks if you want it, especially multicolored decks. This is what you want. It's a snow artifact, which is really cool. And we're going to move on to number 1. You might not agree with me, but that's what I chose. So let's move on to number 1. And at number 1, we got Hearthstone from Stronghold. It's an uncommon going for a whopping $4.49 on the market at the time of this video. And can you believe it? These Heart cards, some of them are worth more than $1. So this Hearthstone costs 3 colors. This cost of each creature ability requiring activation cost is reduced by 1. This cannot reduce an ability generic mana cost to less than 1. The saying is, finding a true Hearthstone is even harder than finding a true heart. Hannah. So that's a really cool legendary creature card. Legendary is Hannah, and she talks about that, so that's really cool. And with so many creature abilities in Magic throughout every series, this card is quite powerful, quite great, quite everything. It was a very close call to putting this at number 2 or number 1 with Cold Steel, but I feel like this is a more, doable in many of the Magic decks. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys have a good day and a good evening.